Hey, this is Wolf Hoffmann, and you're watching The Metal Voice.
Okay, after months of trying, we're very happy to announce that due to our great success we had on our German metal show, we're here today on The Metal Voice with the one and only, the guitar great, Wolf Hoffmann of Accept.
Accept! Wolf, there you are!
How are you?
On. How's it going?
Welcome to The Metal Voice.
Welcome to Canada.
Awesome. Glad to be here, virtually in Canada, anyhow.
Yeah, so we're just, since reforming and releasing Blood of the Nations, I mean, it just seems like you guys have never stopped. Where do you get a chance to breathe? Your album, touring, then another album, some more touring?
Germans never sleep, don't you know? We just work all the time.
It seems like
that
it, yeah,
lately.
for sure. And you're in the middle of rehearsals, and but how was the process a little bit different between, reforming here after a long hiatus? And maybe how you started out back in the late 70s, was there a process that you had to go through with record companies? I mean, the name Accept had clout, of course, but did that help you to sign a new deal?
Well, no, it's been my band since late 70s. I mean, I've never been in any other band, and I never left the band, and neither did Peter. So the band was still in existence, if you want, and it was just dormant. And we all revived it because we happened to meet Mark Tonillo about 3 years ago, and we decided he should be the new voice for Accept.
Sure.
And that's why we opened this whole new chapter of our lives. And let me tell you, it changed our lives overnight, literally. Now we're off touring the world for months at a time. We're making records, and we don't look back, but really all that changed from one day to the other. A few years ago, 3 years ago, when we met Mark and decided he's the guy.
And how hard was it to get back in that routine, that cycle of album tour, after that long layoff?
Not really. It felt like really this is where we belong. Strangely enough, I had not been on stage personally in about forever, 10 years or whatever. And you never really know whether you still got it or, you're kind of nervous about it, how it feels. But let me tell you, you go on stage and within 2 minutes you feel like, oh yeah, this is how it was. This is how it feels like, you're coming back home. You kind of remember it all immediately.
So North America, tell us about, the Teutonic Tour. It's the Teutonic Tour. You got Creator and Accept.
Correct.
This is a monster tour. The Germans are coming. Here they come.
The Teutonic Terror Attack Tour, Jim.
Yes,
yeah, that's it.
This is insanity.
It's the double dose of German metal right in your face, man.
Yeah. So how did this come about? Whose idea was this?
The idea was born about a year ago when we were in Berlin to accept some rewards that Accept had gotten, and Creator was on that same award show. They received some award as well. So after the event, we were just hanging backstage and we were just chatting, and Gabby, our manager, she was talking with the guys, and we casually mentioned that we should maybe one day tour together. And you know how it is, a lot of times these things then never materialize, but in this case we remembered, because we liked the idea of bringing another German band over, just sort of as a incentive for people to come and see us. It would be cool to show different aspects of German metal together in one package.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We called the guys and said, hey, remember we talked about this, and they were on board right away, and we felt this might be a cool thing to do. So here we go. It's going to start in about a week.
This is like big news here in Canada and in the U.S. This is like a dream tour. We're really going to encourage everybody to go out and see this. I don't think we even have to encourage people to go out and see this tour. I think on their own they're going to be running.
And running away.
And is this a true co-headlining tour? Is it they'll close one night and you close one night? Do you alternate, or is it Accept's always closing? How does that work?
Well, we thought about it long and hard, and finally decided, you know what, we're going to go on first and let the young guys close the show.
And it seems
just because we felt as logistically this swapping back and forth doesn't make much sense, and you know, we just decided we want the audience while they're still a little fresher, but you know, it could have been easily the other way. But it's a true co-headlining thing. We're both going to be playing you know, full sets, and I think it's going to be awesome.
Right. And now with Creator, of course, their crowd being a lot more on the thrash, does that alter your set list at all? Do you go out with the play some of the heavier songs, or does that have any influence on the crowd that'll be there with your set list?
Not a whole lot, a little bit, you know. You don't want to play, you know, a lot of ballads or things like that. We adjusted a little bit, but in all honesty, we kind of do our thing mostly, and we I think we know what the crowd wants to hear from us. I mean, we've got all these classic songs.
Right.
Yeah.
Fast and Dark and Balls to the Wall, Metal Heart, that the audience will always expect from us, and those are we're gonna do those for sure. And then we have new material to present. So, I mean, we don't really ever, you know, change the running order that much. We'll still some room for tweaking here and there, but basically our set list is what it is.
Well, speaking of that, I was there at the Blood of the Nations tour here in Montreal.
Do you remember seeing Alan?
I remember seeing Alan. And no, but I have all the Accept albums, but you know, I don't remember seeing you guys in the '80s. So it was a real treat for me to see what your set list would be, and you know, songs like Aiming High. I was expecting Princess of the Dawn and Balls to the Wall and Fast as a Shark, of course, but all these other surprises like Aiming High. It was just a great set list. It was one surprise after another for me, and going back to the Breaker years as well. It was like I couldn't have picked up a better dream list of songs.
You got to understand something, Wolf. We're almost the same age. All three of us, so we pretty much come
to very young is what.
Yeah, that's it.
We're almost the same age here, so when you were starting out as a young lad, we were young lads listening to you from the beginning.
No, we're still young.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
So the set list, obviously they're going to focus on Stalingrad, but
well, yeah, we're going to play 3-4 songs of the new one. We're going to do some of Blood of the Nations.
Okay, great.
And you know, the rest is going to be classic stuff. And funny enough, you mentioned Aiming High. We were just jamming on that yesterday, and those are some of the songs we kind of rediscovered since Mark is in the band. You know, because when we initially, you know, decided we're going to do this, we went through the whole back catalog, not the whole, but a lot of the stuff, and sort of just played it just to see what it would sound like and what songs would work really well and what wouldn't maybe so good. Well, from Mark's perspective, he can do it all, basically.
Oh, yeah.
We found out that, you know, Aiming High, that was really a very cool song. Why did we never really play that live? Or the same as another example is Losers and Winners.
Yeah.
Turns out to be one of my favorites now.
I'm going to throw out another one that I would love to hear live, Bound to Fail off of Metal Heart.
We actually did that in rehearsals, and yeah, well, you know, that's a cool track as well.
Okay, September 10th, keep that in mind. I'll be in the crowd. I'd love to hear that one.
Okay.
But talking about that, I know Blood of the Nations, when Mark came into the band, and you had just mentioned it, you had gone back and listened to some of the previous albums to try to get that classic metal sound of Accept back. How did the writing process differ on Stalingrad?
It's pretty much similar to the way we've always worked, you know. Peter and I usually start with the basic riffs and core ideas for the songs. And then once we feel confident, this might actually be something that's a keeper, then we'll give it to Mark. And at that point, there might be some lyrical ideas or a rough concept, or there might not be. It's all different every time, but he's then usually responsible for the lyrics.
Which is different from what Gabby was.
Gabby used to be the song, the lyricist back in the day, like a lot of people know.
Yeah.
But now that we have Mark, we figured, or she pretty much decided, well, you know what, it would be not right for me to write lyrics as a German, and you know, now we have an American English-speaking singer, and it's, you know, he's a lead singer, so let him write the lyrics.
For sure. And you know what I noticed?
Right.
I noticed that, you know, like Udo to us is irreplaceable, like for everyone, for every Accept fan. But Mark, he steps in and he just brings his own delivery and it works so well. I mean, I think that's why the fans are so excited about your last two albums. I don't know if you, I'm sure, Alan agrees with me on that.
It just seemed like a Stalingrad. Mark, he felt, maybe it was us that were, one album in, we were already used to him, but it just seemed like it was much more comfortable in that recording than on the previous one.
Yeah, but it was very similar. The way that we worked, it was the same producer, same studios, all that. So we were kind of more familiar with everything, and it was, we tried on this album to not change anything, quite honestly. We just said, we found our style, we found our way with Blood of the Nations, so why try even anything different? Let's just keep cranking out great tunes along the same lines, like Blood of the Nations. And that was our goal, to not, if it worked last time, it's going to work this time again. So we're going to write, old school songs with a new sound, like we did on Blood of the Nations.
Yeah, and I go back to listen to the older Accept albums, and compared to some other bands, that the production might sound a little dated. They were going with the trends of the time. I mean, with Michael Wagner and Dieter Dierks, right. And now you got Andy Sneap. How does he compare to some of the producers you've had in the past?
Totally different. I would say he's more of a newer generation. He's one of the Pro Tools kids, as I would call him. He grew up, his background is way different from ours, because he's done a lot of thrash stuff, but at the same time, he's a diehard Accept fan from early on. So he's super familiar with our material and our style, which helps tremendously, And he's a guitar player as well. He's got his own band, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Help, which is way cool. They opened up for us in Europe, by the way.
Wow,
so that's a lot of fun. But I was going to say, he's really into riffs and guitar sound, and so that's perfect too. And then on top of it, he's like, a master on Pro Tools, which is the medium that we all have sort of dabbled around with on our own, but we've never really recorded an album all the way in, hard disk recording like that. So that was a little bit of new territory for us, and the way that he works is, obviously way different than what people used to do 20 years ago, when it was all tape and, much slower process and much more, different.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Jim and I reviewed both albums, Blood of the Nation and Stalingrad, on our show here. But Stalingrad, even now, I slapped it in on my way over here to do this interview. And the first thing that strikes me off of that album is the moment that first chord for Hung, Drawn, and Quarter plays. We know it's Wolf Hoffmann, and we know it's Accept. You have a distinct guitar sound. And what's your secret?
Move over, Eddie Van Halen.
There's no secret, man. I wish I could tell you. I use hand lotion number 5.
We don't have to get too personal, Wolf. But no, right away, it's some guitarists have their own sound, and you're definitely one of them. And we knew just the opening chords that this is an Accept album, and we know what to expect with the chanting vocals, and it's just a great album.
I always wanted to know, Wolf.
What's that?
Whose idea was it to first have those sort of like the chanting vocals, those low singing chanting vocals, like you had in Balls to the Wall?
The end of Princess of the Dawn.
I mean, whose idea was that?
That's me, baby.
Nobody else is looking out.
Oh, voice we've used a lot of times under a lot of the back-end vocals.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. We said, "Whoa, this sounds pretty cool. Let's do 70 tracks of that."
Hot.
There you have the all of a sudden it sounds like the drunk German sailors.
Yeah, that's true.
And Blood of the Nations, I mean, for us, it almost seemed like a spearhead of the metal revival. You guys released that, it got great reviews, charted all over the world. Even in Reaction, we interviewed Biff Byford, and that was one of the albums that stood out for him as well. And then, of course, Saxon released A Call to Arms, Anthrax, Worship Music, and even Creator, Phantom Antichrist, and Overkill. Not Overkill, but we just interviewed Testament. And those are two other very strong albums that just came out. And it just seemed like Accept was the one that was the spark that lit that movement.
Exactly. We're opening,
to light some more.
Everybody fired back up here.
So I'm going to jump into the fan bag here from around the world, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So Giles from Australia wants to know, do you have any plans to re-release any of the albums in the 90s? We're talking about Predator, we're talking about Death Row.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
And what was the other one?
Objection Overruled.
Objection Overruled.
Great album.
Because we're
It'd be really hard to find. I wasn't aware of that.
Death Row we can't find.
At this point, we have no such plans, and if that ever would happen, it's more of a question that you have to, that we would have to, talk to the labels and managers and everybody involved. It's not really a decision that the band just sort of makes up and then make it happen. There's a lot of other background dealings that have to happen for that. Okay. So I don't know. It might be a good idea. I would love to re-record some of this stuff actually, because I thought there was some really strong material on some of it. I just was never super happy with the sound and the production in those days, to be honest. I mean, there was some good stuff on it, but it could have been better. But maybe that's the case with just about everything that I hear. If I listen back to any of the stuff that we've done earlier, I always think like, I'd like to go back and fix that or make that sound better. But,
get Gabby on the phone, make some calls. Let's get them out.
But that's your last tour. I was surprised to hear Bulletproof off of Objection Overruled. That's a great song live.
Yeah,
we love that one. That's almost it's almost a keeper song for every show nowadays.
Yeah, I love Death Row. The song Death Row. That's another great song.
Yeah, see, lots of good stuff there. So there's so much more, but at the same time, we always create new stuff. So
yeah. That's true. It's tough. Okay, and then we got another letter from Jimmy from Canada. He wants to know, what is your favorite Canadian band?
Oh, do I even know any Canadian bands?
Sure Rush. You do. There you go, Rush. There you go.
Huh?
April Wine?
April Wine, yeah. Was never too fond of them. I remember them from back in the day.
But Rush, you gotta love Rush, right?
Yeah, I actually watched a long documentary the other day about them, and it kind of showed another side of them. I really was like, oh yeah, I was very impressed with that.
They're a lot more funny than a lot of people might believe or might
exactly
realize.
Yeah.
Triumph?
Triumph, very cool.
So I like to just throw out maybe some album titles, Wolf, and just get a story or an impression of what was going on at that time. Something like Breaker for a lot of North Americans. That was maybe the start of accepted North America.
Yeah, Breaker, man, that was one of the very early ones, obviously. We were maybe that was the album where we approached where we first started to find our own style. Because we had just come off I'm a Rebel, where we were still sort of not quite sure where we belong and what we should do, and we tried out different things, and I think Breaker is the first time where I would say, okay, we're on our way.
Yeah.
Okay. Metal Heart.
Metal Heart, the first album produced with Dieter Dierks. Great experience, and very successful album, actually. The first time also that we seriously incorporated classical elements into our music.
Dogs on Leads, there's another one. I'm throwing out another one for a possible set list, Dogs on Leads.
Dogs on Leads, yeah, man. That was another album title thrown to us by Gabby. She had this idea. I wanted to write lyrics about dogs on leads, so we were thinking there, da, da, da. Somehow we came up with that song. It's cool. I love it.
It just seemed that album was a little bit more on the poppy side, a little bit more of a commercial influence. I think Dieter probably brought that. Was Screaming for a Love Bite being an example.
Yeah, I was never too fond of it, especially that title. I was like, really? Okay. We would, some of these things you sort of at the time you go along, but you have this nagging doubt in your mind. But sometimes you want to, especially in those days, producers had a huge role in the music scene. It was always, it's Dieter Dierks. If he likes it, it must be good, because he had so much success with the Scorpions, and he's done this and he's done that. So there was always this belief that if a producer says something, then it's got to be true because he's been so successful. So you kind of sometimes let yourself go along with things that you maybe would not have done if you were on your own.
Here's a question for Russian Roulette. I mean, okay, I remember when this album came out.
I love that album.
It was an amazing album. Was it as successful as they wanted it to be, the record company?
No, it wasn't.
And is that why the record company started saying, okay, maybe you guys should get a little more melodic, or is that was the time when they sort of kind of broke up the band in a way?
No, they didn't. I mean, the record company never had that much influence in what we did.
Okay.
I mean, we felt whatever we wrote and stuff, I mean, at the end of the day, we are responsible for it, and I hate to go back and blame any record companies or whatever. But there was a certain tendency in those days for every band, as a matter of fact, to try to have that huge that song that would make, you know, the band big and on MTV, and those were the days when people were selling 8 million records, you know, and everybody was trying to have one of those records, and including us.
Yeah.
Because there was the understanding was, well, if you don't have that, then you're never going to, you know, you can't survive pretty much. You couldn't, in those days, if you just made obscure music that just diehard fans would buy, then it was pretty much a death sentence.
Yeah.
I love that album. I think
the industry lived on record sales.
Right,
so
exactly.
Everybody was trying to have that song that would just get you on the radio, but still would be true to your sound or to your style. And there's lots of examples of other bands that had that. We just never sort of got there, but that was probably one of the reasons why we shifted a little more towards that side on some of the records.
But is it true that the album cover, it was like pro-communist in the States, and when you went to Russia, it was like pure making fun? I heard something with one of the interviews with the band members at that time saying the album cover didn't help that particular release.
I wouldn't go that far, but it just showed. I thought it was a killer album.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
I thought so too. That's why I was disappointed.
Yeah,
you know?
it was just ironic that sometimes people, depending on where you go, they think, look, oh, you're promoting Russia, or you know, like in America, that you would. A lot of people would maybe see that album cover and think, what are you, like communists now or something?
Yeah.
You know?
They just don't get it.
If a Russian sees it, they would say, are you trying to make fun of us? You know.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder, and you can't please everybody. At the end of the day, sometimes you just gotta say, whatever, we'll just do what we like, and somebody's not gonna like it, forget it.
And with the strength of your last two releases and that, have you got any feedback from Udo? Has he called to congratulate? Is there any animosity there? Or?
No, it's just a sort of I mean, he's out of our lives, pretty much. We never see him, we never talk to him, and it's all good, man.
Yeah, he's got his own career and his own band, and that's going good with some strong releases recently as well. So.
And we support both of you guys, and we're thinking, excellent. You know, Udo's making some great records, Accept's making some great records. There we go. Now
that's the way it's supposed to. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it's supposed to be, in my mind. You know, it gives the fans, you know, the double dose, whatever they want to prefer. That's everybody's choice. It's totally cool.
So we just want to remind everybody, starting in September 5th, North American Tour, US and Canada.
Yeah.
The Teutonic Terror Attack 2012, Accept, Creator together, and Swallow the Sun is opening as well on certain dates.
Go out and buy Stalingrad, go out and buy Blood of Nations. In fact, go out and buy the whole catalog.
Buy everything.
Buy everything.
Get the t-shirt.
And get Gabby on the horn, and let's get Death Row out there.
Exactly. Now you're talking.
Well, thanks very much, Wolf, for your time. I know how busy you are rehearsing. It's a real pleasure for myself and for Jim. We're huge fans. Can't wait to see you on the 10th when you come here to Montreal. Looking forward to it. And thanks again for doing this interview.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'm going to go back to shredding right now.